Imagine a 240-pound man jumping from the third rope, doing a tornillo in the air, and falling on top of you. That's what Hector Garza's rivals often saw when they faced him. He wrestled in AAA, CMLL, TNA, WCW, WWF, and New Japan Pro Wrestling. He was one of the founders of the greatest faction in Lucha Libre history, and is part of a legacy that now extends to his nephews Angel and Humberto Garza. Maybe you haven't heard of him, but his story will leave a knot in your throat. Today in Let's Talk Lucha, we'll take a look at the Querubín of Lucha Libre, the one and only Hector Garza. Hector Solano Seguro was born in 1969 in Monterrey, Mexico. He was a second-generation luchador given that his father was Humberto Garza. Humberto Garza was a luchador from Monterrey, Mexico, known as El Niño Travieso, the naughty kid, and he used to wrestle in Arena Mexico, becoming well known in the Cathedral of Lucha Libre. Later in his career, he discovered he enjoyed helping his co-workers after the matches by giving them restoring massages in the areas where they were hurting. His son said he even got to help stars like Blue Demon and El Santo whenever they were hurt, and Humberto was also in the same show. He eventually left Lucha Libre to pursue a career in this matter, starting his own office and becoming well sought out by people who wanted to get rid of bodily injuries. Humberto Garza had 2 sons and 3 daughters. Hector Garza and his brother Humberto Garza Jr. started training to be luchadores when they were just teenagers, and their careers started developing at the same pace. After debuting and wrestling for a while in Monterrey, they were invited to wrestle in the same place their father had known years before, La Arena Mexico, run by what we know as the CMLL. He first started in CMLL as a tag team with his brother, but he eventually went back to Monterrey. He had decided to stay in his father's business and with his family, given that he was already married and he wanted to be there for his son, who you may know as Humberto Garza in WWE. Hector Garza continued in CMLL without his brother, and he became a well-liked técnico. He had a total of 6 betting matches during his first run with CMLL, winning the Cabelleras of established luchadores like Sanguinario, Satánico, El Brazo, MC1, Bestia Salvaje, and El Pirata Morgan. In 1996, Hector Garza went to AAA after part of the roster left with Conan to WCW. This gave Garza the chance to work for the WWF, now WWE. This was because AAA and WWF had an alliance back then. He had various TV appearances and he even participated in 1997's Royal Rumble pay-per-view. There he teamed up with Canek and El Perro Aguayo in a match they won. His last appearance was in the 200th episode of Monday Night Raw, where he had Latin Lover and Octagon as partners. That same year, in 1997, and with AAA's and WWF's partnership ending, Hector went to wrestle in WCW. He debuted in a Monday Nitro by teaming up with Juventud Guerrera and Supercalo. It was during his time in WCW that he became known for his corkscrew plancha, or as it is known in Mexico, El Tornillo. In September, he had a massive victory against none other than Scott Hall in a huge upset, but Hall would beat him under a minute just 2 weeks later. 1 year later, he got the chance to challenge Juventud Guerrera for the Cruiserweight Championship, but he was unable to take the championship home. In October 1998, Eddie Guerrero invited Hector Garza to join the faction he was creating, the Latino World Order. This was a huge opportunity for Garza and he was able to be featured more on TV. Unfortunately, the LWO ended in 1999 after Eddie Guerrero got in a car accident. This sent Garza back to the lower mid-card of the shows, competing mostly against other luchadores in great and entertaining matches, but that didn't lead to anything. In 1999, Hector Garza went back to AAA where he had many matches with Heavy Metal, Latin Lover, and a man who would become like a brother, El Hijo del Perro Aguayo. Both men were partners and enemies many times during their careers. During this time, they even became national tag team champions after defeating Abismo Negro and Electroshock, who were part of Los Vipers. In 2001, at Guerra de Titanes, Hector Garza took Heavy Metal's hair, becoming the 10th Cabellera he had won. And the next year, he beat Latin Lover to become the national heavyweight champion. Latin Lover was another luchador who had his career intertwined with Hector's. Personally, I had the chance to see them wrestle live many times, almost always facing each other. They had great chemistry and it was always entertaining. In October 2002, Hector Garza faced Latin Lover in a hair versus hair match, Cabellera contra Cabellera. The match took place in Monterrey where both men were from. The match was fast-paced. Neither man wanted to give an inch of advantage to the other. Both men had incredible physiques, conditioning, and unlimited charisma. Hector Garza won the first fall, and Latin Lover won the second one. The faces of both men were painted red, but neither wanted to give in. The referee was Rudo, so he would count very slowly whenever Latin made a pin. There was a defining moment in the match. Hector Garza went to the third rope and did a shooting star press. He didn't fall correctly and he immediately grabbed one of his legs. Latin saw this and started targeting the area. He even pulled Garza away when the doctor approached the ring to help him. Latin put Garza in a sharpshooter and Garza tapped immediately. This was the first time Hector lost his hair. In 2004, Hector went back to the United States, now to participate in TNA during their alliance with AAA. There, he won the America's X Cup alongside Abismo Negro, Juventud Guerrera, Mr. Águila, and Heavy Metal. He returned to the CMLL that same year, which meant he wasn't seen in TNA during the rest of the time they worked with AAA. Now back in the CMLL, he allied with his old friend El Hijo del Perro Aguayo, and he was part of La Furia del Norte alongside El Terrible and Tarzan Boy. As a team, they won the CMLL Trios Championships. At the same time, the AAA and TNA alliance ended, and he went back to the American company where he won a 20-man X Division gauntlet and also challenged Jeff Jarrett for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. But 2005 would change Hector Garza's life forever. It was then that he and El Hijo del Perro Aguayo, commonly known as Los Perros Mayores, would create the faction Los Perros del Mal alongside Damián 666, Halloween, and Mr. Águila. I already have a video specifically on Los Perros del Mal and also another video on El Hijo del Perro Aguayo, so I encourage you to go watch those videos to understand the faction's lore. In 2005, Hector Garza and El Hijo del Perro Aguayo were the main event of the 72th anniversary show of the CMLL, alongside Universo 2000 from the Dinamitas. In this match, which involved the three men, one of them would lose their hair. Of course, El Perro and Garza united forces and dominated Universo 2000. The first man to pin another would save his hair and then the two others would have to continue. The one who saved his hair first was El Perrito, letting Garza take care of Universo. Garza continued the dominance, and when a woman came out to try and help Universo, El Hijo del Perro took care of her and sent her backstage. But this was part of the plan of Los Dinamitas, and in a second, Carmelo Reyes, the brother of Universo, appeared from the crowd and kicked Garza between the legs. This was enough for Universo 2000 to win the match, and Garza lost his hair for the second time. The last time Hector Garza lost his hair was in 2008, after he had some issues with the rest of Los Perros del Mal. This led to a match between him and El Hijo del Perro Aguayo, one-on-one. The old tale of brothers fighting till the end repeated itself. Garza was unable to win the match and he lost his hair for the last time. This time, his father Humberto was on the ring with him when they took his hair, supporting him now that his back had turned on him. That same year, El Hijo del Perro Aguayo left the CMLL with Los Perros del Mal and created his own promotion. But Hector stayed in CMLL and he even had a run as a técnico. He stayed with the company until 2011 and during that time he won a lot of gold. He won the CMLL World Trios Championships alongside El Hijo del Fantasma and La Máscara 2 times. He won the CMLL World Tag Team Championships alongside Místico 2 times, and he also won the CMLL World Heavyweight Championship. In 2011, still in CMLL, he debuted in New Japan Pro Wrestling at Wrestle Kingdom 5. When he teamed up with Yashin Thunder Liger to defeat Máscara Dorada and La Sombra, now known as Andrade. In July of the same year, he faced Liger for the CMLL World Middleweight Championship but couldn't win the match. In 2011, Garza left the CMLL and joined El Perro's promotion, which also had an alliance with AAA. This meant that we got to see Hector back with the pack and also back in AAA. The following August, El Hijo del Perro Aguayo had Hector Garza in his corner during his match at Triplemanía 20 when he faced El Mesías for the Mega Championship. There was a point in which El Perro was about to apply a martinete to El Mesías, but Garza stopped him, explaining to him that he should win the right way and that he could get disqualified. This didn't sit well with El Perro, and he told Garza to hit El Mesías with a chair shot to the head while he held him. El Mesías moved, and El Perro was the one who received the impact, causing a huge gash on his head and covering his face red. After El Perro lost the match, Los Perros del Mal blamed Garza and he was kicked out of the faction once again. Now we get to the part that I would like to avoid, but I have to tell it. In late 2012, Hector Garza was diagnosed with lung cancer. His brother has said that he had been carrying a strange cough for almost a year before he sought medical attention for it, and that's when the cancer was discovered. In just 9 months, the cancer wore down Hector, taking him from his usual 240 pounds to just 121 pounds. His family gave him every alternative medicine option they came across, but the diagnosis stayed the same. In his last days, Hector wasn't even able to open his eyes, and even the slightest touch to his skin was extremely painful. His family never stopped encouraging him. He told them he was doing everything he could, but he was really tired. His parents and siblings never left his side. In May 2013, Hector had to be checked into the hospital to be stabilized, and the doctors told his parents he needed to be intubated. His father, Humberto Garza, asked the doctor if that would save his son. The answer was no. So he refused such treatment, and after being stabilized a couple of days later, he was sent home. A few days after, Hector Garza passed away in his hometown of Monterrey. He was just 43 years old. As you would expect, his funeral was attended by a myriad of luchadores. Everyone gathered to pay respects to the Querubín. As I mentioned in El Hijo del Perro Aguayo's video, El Perro would die just 2 years after in a match in Tijuana. But there's a third luchador that isn't mentioned a lot when we talk about these two passings. I'm talking about Latin Lover. Latin Lover was always a técnico, while Hector and El Perro were usually rudos. But in the last few years and after starting his podcast, Latin Lover has made it clear that he, Hector Garza, and El Perro were really close friends, even sharing that his sons would often play with Hector's son. He has also said repeatedly that in the Lucha Libre business you have many co-workers, but very few friends, and that Los Perros Mayores, the main Perros, were truly his very close friends. It is in cases like his that Lucha Libre becomes a prison of some sort. It's the reason why he wasn't able to publicly mourn and lament the passing of his dear friends, because he had to keep kayfabe. Of course, he went to their funerals and paid his respects, but very few people outside of Lucha locker rooms understood just how devastating this loss had been for him. We were able to see his love for his friends recently when he talked about Hector's passing with his brother Humberto, and when one of his fans gave him a drawing at a signing event. The fan drew the faces of El Hijo del Perro Aguayo, Hector Garza, and Latin Lover. And Latin was unable to hold back the tears and just said that they were his best friends. In the world of Lucha Libre, there are no illnesses. Of course, there are many injuries and accidents, but we rarely hear about a luchador being sick. I would like to believe it is because heroes don't fall sick. They don't cough or cry. And whenever they stand in the ring, nothing can stop them. Sadly, the real world rarely respects the world of Lucha Libre. The sad passing of Hector Garza filled our hero's eyes with tears and left the locker rooms in silence. But most of us never saw it. He was everywhere. CMLL, AAA, TNA, WWF, WCW, New Japan, and more. And many of you have said you can see him in his nephew Angel Garza. One thing is sure, Hector Garza left this world, but he has never left our hearts. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know in the comments if you had heard of Hector Garza before and what you thought of his story. Follow me to learn more Lucha Libre lore. I'm Eric and I will see you in the next video.